without further ado, today we are honored to introduce our distinguished speaker for the fourth session of our webinar series. He serves as Associate Professor 4 at Camarines Sur Polytechnic Colleges and currently holds the position of Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. He earned his first doctorate from the University of St. Anthony and now pursuing a second doctorate in applied linguistics at De La Salle University, Manila. He has contributed extensively to academic research, having served as a reviewer for journals indexed in Scopus, Web of Science, and the Science Citation Index. His research has been presented at various colloquiums and published in reputable reference journals. In addition, he is an active member of numerous professional organizations, including the National Research Council of the Philippines or NRCP. Without further ado, let us all warmly welcome our speaker, Dr. Marlon S. Pontillas.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma'am Riza. First of all, I would like to extend my warmest gratitude to the CSPC community, to our President, Dr. Oliva, our VPAA, Dr. Hintalan, our VP Rep Ed, Doc Cha, and to our VPA, Ma'am Nance, and of course to my fellow deans, to the research and development family, especially for Sir Harold. Thank you very much for inviting me, and Ma'am Che, and everyone, to everyone who are here today. So for today, I'll just make my presentation um, very short. I hope I can finish. I'm aiming to finish this for only 1 hour. So anyway, this will just be an overview of qualitative research. Okay, to some we will be to some who are not familiar with Quali. So I hope I can encourage you to make a research using qualitative research design. And I hope you can also publish papers. You can also engage the different scholarly endeavors using qualitative research methods. So let me share my PowerPoint presentation. So once again, I am Sir Arl. You can address me by by my nickname na lang po. Just call me Arl or Sir Arl na lang. Okay? So for today, I will be discussing about qualitative research design and an overview. Because to some, if you will be pursuing your master's or especially for PhD, quality research is a one whole course. So it's a one semester course offering po. No? So ang challenge ko is paano ko siya magkakasyahin for only like an hour or 60 minutes regarding this. Okay, so maybe you might be asking, what is quali? No, I've heard about quali, but ano nga ba talaga ang qualitative research? So as you can see in my presentation, these are more words. Okay, so this involves collecting and analyzing non-numerical data to understand concepts, insights, and experiences. Ito yung mga hindi nakaka-capture ng stat. So say for example, if you want to engage into the level of motivation of the students um, in higher ed institutions, especially for first year. Usually, our research, you will just distribute survey questionnaire. Yan, um, naka rating scale. 5, very motivated, 4, motivated, 3, neutral, 2, um, unmotivated, number 1, super unmotivated, something like that. But however, in this kind of research, we may quantify their levels of motivation. However, there is still a reason why, no? Bakit kaya karamihan ng mga respondents or participants are not motivated when it comes to online learning? Why is it that most of our college students enrolled, no? In, say for example, in a GE class na pure online, bakit hindi sila na-motivate mag-aral? Okay? So, your quantitative research, that study, can be extended into a qualitative research, can be another study, so that we unpack, okay? Ang lalim ng term, no? We unpack, we analyze, and we have to find out the reasons behind it, no? Kasi baka hindi sila motivated because number 1, baka wala silang load. Number 2, nagkakaroon ng conflict yung kanilang on-site and off-site classes. Number 3, the environment setting in an online class is not conducive for them. So those things can be answered through qualitative research. Okay. Here, sabi dito, it's used to gather in-depth insights, not deeper. The hows and the whys of a certain research can be answered through quali. So it is used to gather in-depth insights into a problem or generate new ideas for research. Qualitative doesn't just stop into the results. Now, usually sa mga quali, para siyang series of kwento. Like you do this one and then you do this another one, a continuous study, so that we can be able to capture the real story for that one. The metaphor that I always use for research is that research is a story. Okay, yun ang lagi ko ano sa mga class ko sa masters and even for undergrad. Sabi ko, class, ang research is a kwento. Okay, and a kwento has always its beginning and end. And sometimes it is an episodic, okay? It's a series that you have to undergo, okay? Like say, for example, this one, no? You can see pictures of outstanding students, like they were awarded in the Malacanang because of their exemplary services, exemplary contributions in the field of academe as outstanding students. However, the question is, aside from winning the hotly searched for TOS, the question is, what made them outstanding? Anong ginawa nila? No? What were the challenges they have faced or have they faced in their journey as a student? No? And what were the stories behind their triumph as a TOSP, or we call it as a TOSPIan? So those things, hindi mo siya maka-quantify, hindi siya masasagot through a survey questionnaire lang. So here, we have to do something like interviews, we can document analysis, something like that, or a focus group discussion, no, so that we could capture the answers of these questions. So for quali, ang sources of data usually it's a form of interview, observation, and a document analysis. Okay. Now, ang pinakatanong kasi dito, what's the difference between quali and quanti? So Sir Arl, if we would like to have a study like this one, how can we classify it? Is it quali or quanti? Okay. So there is a table here for quali and quanti. Sabi dito, if your objective is to explore research to establish a base of insights on a key topic area, if you would like to understand the underlying motivations, the attitudes, the perceptions, no? Sa mga teachers ngayon, no? If you would like to know why is it that they have a negative attitude towards mathematics? Okay. Why is it that they are not motivated when they are studying Rizal? Mga estudyante ngayon, di ba? Pag mga GE courses, yung ibang GE courses, parang they didn't like to study that one because it's not relevant to their program. Di ba? So we may want to unpack all of this. And if your objective is this one, then you may want to do a qualitative research. It provides also an insight into the problem definition, providing hypothesis and language for subsequent quantitative evaluation. Parang it's an add-up to the quantitative evaluation that you have had in your previous research. For quanti, if you want to quantify data, generalize results, say for example, in the whole CSPC community, how many are unmotivated to study Rizal? Or how many students have a negative attitude towards studying Philippine history? Okay, so if we measure them through a certain quantitative techniques, I think Sir Seth was able to give you the information about that one, not the quant. Then the research is about quantitative. So if you want to predict future behaviors, then that's quanti. No? For sampling, no, ang tanong, Sir Arl, ilan po bang participants ang pwede namin for quali? Actually, wala, depende. Depende siya sa method or depende siya specific approach ng qualitative methods, no? So, kahit isa, no? I have one participant, no, when I was able to unpack the opportunities and challenges of online EFL educator in an online setting, in an online ESL setting, no? It's a single case study. And I was very happy because even though isa lang yung participant ko namin, or participant ko doon, I was able to generate a lot of things. I was able to generate a story, which is the main purpose of a qual. For quantity, may specific numbers siya. Depende sa sampling method that you would like to employ. For the methodology naman sa quali, it's more on FGD, in-depth interviews, shop-alongs, ethnography. Yan, pwede siyang in-person, pwede by phone or online, depende. For quantity, more on surveys, no? Pwede siyang via Google Class, Google, ano siya, yung parang Google survey, something like that one. Or pwede siyang in the form of a mail or email. May mga ganong mga apps for that one. For data collection, for Quali, you use semi-structured. May mga follow-up questions. You have discussion guides. You have FGD guide. No? It can evolve over the course of the study. No? And for quantitative, masyadong highly structured yung mga questionnaire. Hanggang dito ka lang. No? I-rate mo lang kung 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 yung perception regarding that. No? So it has very wide variety of question types, both closed and open-ended. No? For data analysis, pag quali, it's non-statistical. No? Here, our aim for quali, we generate things. We unpack codes. We return codes into subcodes until we create themes for that one. We focus on concepts. We focus on images, interpreting images. We have multimodality study or multimodal approach as a framework. It can include content analysis. Halimbawa, gusto mong tingnan ang level or not really level, but the writing prowess of your students in an English class. So you will be analyzing the essays, for example. You will do an error analysis. You will spot on what specific grammatical structure na namamali sila. Okay, so it can be, it's quali. It's very quali. Pero say for example for quantity, for grammar proficiency, binigyan mo sila ng test. It's a 50-item test with TOS, with everything, no, na very quantifiable. Then you were able to see na 85% of my students are developing when it comes to grammar, no? Pero pag sa quali, aalamin mo what makes it developing? Bakit developing lang? Ano yung mga nakita mo sa document na masasabi mong developing siya? Okay, now I hope you see the difference between the quali and quali. And the reporting outcome naman for quali is directional. Hindi siya for conclusive. Yun din ang disadvantage din. Hindi siya ganun ka-conclusive na hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na all Filipino educators are experiencing high level of stress. Kung isa lang naman yung ginawa mo, participant for that one. But for quanti, it can be generalizable depending on the technique or the sampling technique that you've had. O halimbawa, nag-survey ka sa mga Filipino teachers all over the Philippines, di ba? You were able to have like 10,000 teachers through a certain sampling technique. And na-find out mo doon, no, na Filipino teachers are very unmotivated when it comes to their teaching profession. So that's very conclusive. Pero pag sa quali, very subject-based siya, no? Na parang ito lang. Sa taong ito or sa participant ito yung experience niya. So we may have another experience from another set of participants. Okay? So for qualitative, marami siyang approaches. Okay. Ito yung isa sa mga favorite ko, no? The narrative inquiry or narratology. When I had my dissertation in 2018, this is the approach that I have used, no, it's a narrative inquiry. Pag narrative inquiry, it's the study of experience, understanding how people think about it, no, their unique experiences. It highlights ethical matters as well as shapes new theoretical understandings of people's experiences. So how we do this? Number one, we identify a problem or phenomenon to explore. Halimbawa, you want to know what are the narratives of these outstanding teachers in Metrobank? Ayan. Number two, select one or more participants to study. So halimbawa, ang focus ko lang sa Bicol region, no, yung mga nanalo sa Bicol region, then I have my inclusion criteria. So say for example, ano ka, Metrobank winner ka, pero nasa Visayas ka, I will exclude you. Pag sa quali ganun, dapat clear yung inyong inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria should be defined in your methodology para hindi ka din mahihilo as to what specific participants will you be looking in your. Three, collect the story from that participant. Ito na yung parang pinaka-exciting, no? So you form a discussion guide, simulan mo. Ako ginawa ko sa paper ko nang sinimulan ko as yung ano sila, paano sila naging outstanding, ano, their story behind teaching, like what made them decide to venture in the teaching profession. Then tinanong ko din sila like how many years before silang na-promote for that one, and ano yung parang mga challenges and opportunities nila as a teacher that made them become qualified for the Metrobank Outstanding Award. Who motivated them? Who pushed them? What was the story behind, no, sa pag-apply nila for a specific award? Then, nung na-award din sila, after naman, what was the impact of the award? Na-promote ba sila? Naging senador ba sila? Naging congresswoman ba sila? Nag-stay ba sila sa teaching profession? Or baka nag-abroad sila? So all those stories, no, guided by interview guide questions, help me as a researcher to collect the stories. No? And as a researcher, kailangan objective yung pagtatanong mo. Kahit halimbawa, yung sinasabi ng researcher or ng participant na, ay kasi ganito, na very opposing sa point of view mo, sige lang, stick to the question, stick to the objective, because that's their kwento and not your kwento. Okay? Then after that, you have to restory or retell the individual story. Kung anong sinabi nila, dapat yun yun. Na huwag kang magdagdag at magbawas ng kwento. No? You collaborate with the participant or storyteller. You verify, is the story accurate? Is it a picture of your narrative? No? Then you write a story about the participants' experiences through validating the report's accuracy. Ayan, ito yung paper ko. This is my dissertation in USAN. I made an output for this one. It's the Bicolanong Bayani. So I interviewed 5 outstanding teachers of the Philippines who are Bicolanos. So gumawa ako ng output na Bicolanong Bayani, which is more of the kwento of these 5 outstanding teachers. So dito yung parang naging framework ko sa paper ko, it's yung kwento before the search, preparation for the search, and the impact of the search. So tatlong untold stories siya, yung commitment to lifelong learning, untold stories ng application ng search nila, and then untold stories of changing their professional and personal lives after winning the search. So possible topics, ayan, you can dig into the stories of working students in your school. Ayan. Madami yan. So if you're a teacher, you may want to unpack, ano ba ang mga narratives ng mga working students sa school ninyo? And stories of outstanding teachers. So hindi naman Metrobank. Like say for example, for NABWA, you have your Auton or outstanding teachers of NABWA or whatever search is that, no? Gabay Guro. So bahala po kayo. Stories of successful alumni in your school. Like ito bang mga graduate as valedictorian? Are they the successful people in your batch? So pwede siya. and other interesting human stories. Stories of a farmer, stories of firefighters, stories of fisher folks. Maganda siyang gawan ng research regarding that. Kasi yung kwento nila, no? It can also be a basis of a policy recommendation. Kasi baka nalaman mo ang mga agriculturist natin or mga farmers natin, say for example, they are so much deprived of their uh, of their earnings. Wala silang masyadong benefits, no? So they umaasa lang sila sa mga daily work basis lang nila. So baka itong mga kwentong to, pwede siyang maging basis for policy recommendations. So, or sa school natin, yung mga working students, baka pag nakita mo doon na yung mga working students, hindi napapakinggan yung boses nila. Like they are requesting for a night class, for a flexible working schedule, kaso wala. No? But through your paper about this one, pwede siyang maging basis for policy recommendations na baka yung mga working students natin pwedeng i-exempt natin for uniform policy. Baka itong mga working students natin, ito yung pwede nating i-recommend for scholarships sa SASO and other externally funded scholarships. So those things, no, those narratives that are not really captured by a simple or a mere questionnaire, baka ito yung maging daan. This might pave the way for change. Okay, so that's why I really have a strong bias with narrative theory kasi ang sarap makinig lang ng kwento ng iba. And that's researchable. Next naman is phenomenology, no? So, gaya din ng narratology or narrative inquiry, it focuses on the commonality of lived experience din siya in a particular group. Fundamental goal is to arrive at the description of the nature of a particular phenomenon. Say, for example, a phenomenon is about what's the struggles or what are the struggles of the graduate students, yung mga nagtitik ng mga masters and doctorate, no? That they are working, they are family persons, pero how can they be able to balance their obligations at home, at work, and at school, in the graduate school? Diba? So that's a particular phenomenon that you may want to unpack. I have a recent publication titled Lived Experiences of Graduate School Students in a Private Higher Institution in the Philippines, a phenomenological approach, a phenomenological study rather. So I was able to unpack there ano yung mga common experience nitong particular group. No? And doon, interesting kasi sabi doon sa study ko, which was just published last month, if I'm not mistaken, na ang mga graduate school students pala, they are doing their graduate school number 1 for promotion. Most of them are DepEd teachers who would like to be promoted for a certain rank. Kasi ang hirap-hirap daw magpa-promote sa DepEd. Yun yung na lumabas sa study. So, parang they really want to finish their MA because if they were able to finish their masters, they will be merited ano ba yun? ERF, no? Or the equivalency rank, something, na parang they become teacher 3, something like that. And I was able to research the difference. No? Ang teacher 1 is salary grade 11. Then teacher 3 is just a mere of SG 13. So sabi ko, they will be investing too much for graduate school just for this rank. So personally, naawa ako sa mga narratives ng mga teachers kasi parang ang hirap sa kanilang umusad when it comes to promotion. And this is one way na kailangan nilang i-sacrifice yung kanilang Saturday and Sunday to go to school, to graduate school, just for this. No, because they want to have something, they want to achieve a certain level of professional development through promotions. Another na ano ko doon na may mga times talaga na kinakain ng oras nila yung work obligations. Like say for example, there are students there who are not regularly attending the classes during Saturday or Sunday because their immediate supervisor asked them to report, no, sa school for different activities. So, yun yung parang struggle niya. Kasi gusto naman niya mag-attend ng klase. Kaso, wala siyang choice. Kasi lagi siyang pinapa-report every weekends. Number three, lumabas din sa study ko na they want to learn something. So parang ayaw nilang ma-stuck sa ganong level na um, yung knowledge na ipapass nila sa mga students is just the same as what they have known before in the college level or during mga inset training. So para they could have an environment that they can nurture themselves, they can improve on themselves, hence they enroll in the graduate studies. So, say for example, for a phenomenology, the main purpose is to seek reality from individuals' experiences, feelings, and produce in-depth descriptions of the phenomenon. Usually, ang participants, kahit mga 5, okay lang siya. Pero kapag talagang kailangan ng kailangan, may tinatawag kasi tayong data saturation. Data saturation is you set up certain number of participants. However, during your interviews or FGT, nakita mo doon na hindi pa pala siya enough. No? So, you go on. You add one participant, another participant until the data is already saturated. Na-meet mo na yung required, yung feeling mo na ay masasagot na yung objective ng study. So, you do data saturation. Wala naman nagsasabi na, ito dapat 8 lang, dapat 5 lang. No? Depende siya sa data mo. Depende siya sa nature of interview and the responses of the interview ng mga participants. Kaya napaka-importante that your questions should be well framed. Importante that your questions are well framed para ma-unpack mo, para makuha mo kung ano yung desired objectives mo, desired answers, objectives ng study mo. Okay? So for phenomenology, researchers totally understand the phenomenon. Who want to dig a phenomenon from informants about, say for example, their experiences in working. In this case, researchers avoid criticism. So for quali, kailangan mong ihiwalay yung iyong attitudes, perceptions, beliefs into a certain event. Okay? Kailangan ihiwalay mo siya. You have to limit your biases. Everyone has its own biases. Hindi ko sinasabing wala tayong biases. Even for quantitative research or whatever things we do, sabi nga nila, we have our own biases. However, we can limit our biases. Yun. As a researcher, we have to limit our bias, especially if you are working for a qualitative paper. So in this case, the researcher avoid criticisms, blah, blah, blah. So in this in-tweeting step, researcher as an instrument in the interview process. Second stage is you have to analyze. So at this stage, the researchers identify the meaning of the phenomenon, and you have to explore the relationship and link this phenomenon, through data interpretation. The researchers get the data needed to ensure a pure and powerful image. So do your best when you do your interview. Do your best to capture the answers of the participants. So after you have interviewed or analyzed the data or whatever, you do phenomenological describing. So here the research communicate and provide a written description to the critical elements. You provide themes, you generate themes that are based on the classification and clustering phenomenon. So the purpose of this phase is to communicate the meaning and significance of the experience. Dapat maintindihan ng researcher or ng reader ano nga ba yung mga ano yung occurrences or phenomenon na talagang existing din sa study mo. So halimbawa, lumabas dun sa study mo about sa experience ng graduate school students ay yung kanilang opportunities and challenges or their work-life balance as a student, as a graduate school student, then present it on your manuscript or on your paper. Okay? So example, if you ang informant natin is laborer, mga farmers. So yung tayong mga researcher, we have to set the criteria. Sino bang farmers na to? Sino ba itong mga laborer? Yung mga laborer ba na ganitong age range? yung ganitong experience, mga taga ditong lugar, mga taga rural areas, mga far-flung areas ba? So, depende yun sa isi-set natin. No? And sometimes these things are informed by the literature. So that's why it's very important that we do a very good literature review on our papers, may it be quality or quantity. Kasi ito yung nag-i-inform sa atin, ano ba ang kailangang angle sa ating paper. So what do you want to explore in their field? No? Their labor productivity ba? Their opportunities and challenges? So you should specify the specific parameters. So yung primary data dito, yung socioeconomic marginalization of farmers, you can, yung documentation ng kanilang agricultural land conversion, yung iba nga nagkakaso-kaso pa dyan, no? Ang daming mga disputes and mga, ito, mga challenges with regard to that, no? Sa landowner versus them. No? So you do interviews with the workers. Ito yung parang pinakamagandang form of unpacking their stories. You have to interview them. Also, you have to interview also the landowners, no, the board of farmer groups, and other concerned people or organization for this. Secondary data natin dito, pwedeng tingnan mo yung data sources ng mga village monograph or yung mga data from the internet, no? And other documentation on the history of the place. Kasi baka doon natin malaman na kaya pala deprive yung mga farmers natin. Kasi ito yun. Ito yung kanilang history ng place. Na sa ganito palang place, ito yung treatment ng mga farmers dito. Ng mga farmers sa ganito. So doon, mas mauunawaan natin the phenomenon, no, on in our study. Yun yung sinasabing phenomenology, no? Na parang titingnan natin ang different angles behind that one. Okay? So another possible topics, bullying cases in your school. May advisee and masters, no, parang gumawa siya ng paper about bakit nagkakaroon ng bullying cases sa elementary school. Catholic school yun. Diba? Mental health status of our students. Bakit maraming mga students ang mga suicidal? Students nagda-drop because of mental health. Ano nakaka-cause or nakaka-trigger ng kanilang mental health status, no? Experiences of students in the online modality. I have a completed paper for number 3. No, it's more on the phenomenological experience of yung mga students natin nung pandemic, no, na coming from a marginalized sector of the society. Na yung mga ganung mga level nila, ganun yung SES nila, socioeconomic status nila. Doon ako nag-focus. Yung mga walang internet, walang pagbili ng load, walang pang load and everything. So sabi ko, paano kaya nila na-survive ang online class nung pandemic, no? So it's a completed paper. Hopefully, I can I will be presenting that, I think, this year in a certain paper convention. The title is Learning in the Borderless Classroom, a Phenomenological Study on blah, 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 blah. I forgot. Yun. So, yung mga naging participants ko from CSBC lang naman. Other things that involve specific phenomenon. So, another one is ethnography. Ayan. If you are in the social science or language research, ang ganda-ganda ng ethnography. Kaso, matrabaho ang ethnography. Kasi you have to immerse into the community para malaman mo. No, you are looking at people in their cultural setting. Hindi pwedeng pupunta ka lang doon mag-i-interview, sabihin mo, ano ang kulturang meron kayo? Diba? No. You have to be there for a month, 2 months, no? Minsan, umaabot ng years. No? I have a friend in ethnographic research siya sa language documentation. And parang 1.5 years siyang nag-immerse dun sa community in a specific ethnic group in Quezon Province. Yun. Maganda sana siya kaso matrabaho talaga siya. You have to devote time. Kailangan, hindi ka nag-work. Kailangan you are on a full scholarship grant. No, if this will be your dissertation or thesis in a master's or doctorate level. No, so your goal is to produce narrative account of a particular culture. Researchers do direct observation of users in the natural environment. You have to take note everything. Kung kailangan nilang sumayaw, no? Sasali ka sa sayaw, 'di ba? Kung kumakanta sila dito every morning, kailangan mong aralin. Ano yung kantang 'yun, no? Ano yung meaning ng mga kantang 'yun sa culture nila? Ba't sila kumakanta? Ba't ang kasuotan nila ganito? Why do they dress like this one? If it's necessary for you to dress like that one, then be it. Para mas ma-immerse mo yung sarili mo that one, into that context. You produce accurate reflection of perspective and behavior. Ito kasi ang maganda dito, hindi siya etchos-etchos lang, hindi lang more on the interviews, extracts, no? Maganda masusulat ng paper dito kasi it's a first-hand experience. Na-experience mo first-hand. Hindi lang siya second-hand source of second form of information. Parang since andoon ka sa konteksto na yun or sa community na yun, you know the needs, the details of the cultural aspect, the societal aspect, no? Their artistic form, their beliefs, their traditions, and everything. Maganda ang papel na maisusulat mo. So the data are collected from the fieldwork experiences. So you do participant observation, you do in-depth interviews, you tackle the life histories and documentary data. May tinatawag rin tayong nethnography. Ayan, from ethnography to nethnography. Parang nag-ano lang siya ngayong pandemic, no? Yung parang it's an online, you immerse in the online community. Say for example, yung online class na yon sa isang school or sa isang course. So you also enroll, no? You become also a student in the class para malaman mo din kung paano nga ba nade-deliver ng instruction ng teachers, no? For this class. That's the ethnography. So matinatawag tayong self-ethnographic research, no? Non-participant online ethnography. So researchers decide to only observe, for example, in an online community. May participant online ethnography din po tayo. Researchers get in touch with specific participants to shadow their online activities. A very good example is through screen sharing. So how you conduct ethnography, try to distinguish between what you hear versus what you see, what you feel versus how you interpret it. Dapat it's clear to you, no? Dapat ready ka for this one. No, hindi pwedeng parang half part of yourself is only ready for this one because you have to immerse into the community. You do field notes, you write as many details as much as possible. Kahit yung pagtawa nila, no? Paano ba yung tono ng pagtawa nila? The way they talk, meron ba silang meron ba silang mga slang words? Meron ba silang mga way of communicating, no? Lahat yun ilalagay mo. Be objective as much as possible. You have to be aware of potential observer effect. Yun, yung biases mo. Kasi baka may negative you will be observing in a certain cultural minority group. However, hindi mo feel sila, no? So kailangan clear yung biases mo. And your biases actually in a research study, more likely in quali, dapat naka-report yun sa paper mo. And natatandaan ko yun. So my quali prof always tells us that you have to put your researchers' biases in your paper. Most probably in the methodology part. So you have to divulge it. Para clear din sa reader kung ano nga ba ang naging biases mo towards the study. The length of doing such depends on your objective. So sometimes it takes years. So keep track with your collected data. You write a short summary with your key findings. Possible topics, halimbawa yung behavior ng synchronous classes, no? Culture ng isang online community, no? The verbal and non-verbal cues in synchronous classes, and other topics related with culture. If you want to document a language, if you want to know the socio-political or the socio-economic nature of a certain community, then ethnography is a perfect design for you. So we also have case studies. No? It's used to generate an in-depth, multifaceted understanding of a complex issue in its real-life context. Ang maganda dito sa case study kasi pwede siyang single case. as what I said a while ago, may paper ako noon, no? Na parang opportunities and challenges ng isang online teacher na tumagal sa online industry for 10 years. So, kahit isa lang siya, ang dami kong na-unpack because may criteria, lahat niya na-check yung criteria ko sa participant. At least 10 years, no? Isang company lang yung pinagtrabahuan niya. Um, Regular na siya dun sa company na yon, so and so forth. So ang ganda ng kwento niya kasi nanarate doon kung ano nga ba ang mga the real cases of an online teacher. What is it, no? To become an online ESL teacher teaching Chinese students in a certain company. So ano yung naging, bakit siya tumagal? Yun tanong ko dun. Parang ang tanong ko dun is, bakit ka tumagal dun sa company na yon? Na ang dami-daming work opportunities, no? Parang natagalan ang isang online setup, no? So, ang dami niyang sinabi doon, no? Kahit yung panagba-brown out sa place nila, marami siyang parang backup, may generator siya, meron siyang battery ng sasakyan, no? Na para maging source of electricity. Meron siyang mga dalawa ang kanyang internet connection na pinakabit para pag nagloko yung isa, meron siyang backup internet. May mobile data pa siya, no? So everything, even yung the way siya mag-interact sa mga estudyante sa klase, na-narrate niya yon in our interview. Papaano niya nakaka-capture ang mga students from China na hindi naman talaga marunong mag-English, 'di ba? Because English is not their their second language, it's their foreign language. Okay, so those things, no, in the case study, marami siya. So for case study, sa mga business, no, if you are an MBA or business art students, you can make this a case study as a as a form of your research approach in a qualitative study and provide solutions to address the said issues. So let's say, for example, if you're working at CSPC, what makes CSPC a CSPC? Ano ang meron sa CSPC na wala sa ibang SUC? Paano ba nira-run ng administration ang school when it comes to budgeting, when it comes to planning, when it comes to ISO, mga quality assurance standards. So those cases could actually help you to understand a certain situation. And this can be answered through case studies. So same lang naman din sa case study, gaya ng narratology and Fino, almost same lang naman yung way nila, no, on how you conduct it. So yung possible topics natin, yung mga school policies that need to revisit or address, o halimbawa yung uniform policy ng school, applicable pa ba yun? Despite the landscape of gender issues and everything, na maraming mga working students. So pwede na siyang pag-aralan, no? Kung ano nga ba talaga ang preferred modality ng mga estudyante sa school? Gusto ba nila ng online or face-to-face? Okay, ano ang pros and cons, the boons and the banes of the online and face-to-face setup? So other helpful tips in your research journey, mas maganda if you triangulate your data. So how can you do that? You use two or more sources of data. You use two or more theories. O, ayan. When we triangulate data, hindi lang siya sources. Even theories could actually help us to back up the results of the study. Use the help of intercoders, meaning if you will be doing thematic analysis, you invite a friend of yours who do research. Tatlo kayo. Ito yung themes na na-analyze mo. They will be verifying it, no? If it's okay. It also helped to limit the biases of your study. I always make sure that whenever I present my finalized themes, I invite intercoders, no, to really limit to promote objectivity of my themes. So you do coding. So say for example, yung mga responses nila, ito muna C1, C2, C3, blah, blah, blah. After that, you group them together. So C1, C5, C8, C9, more on the advantages of online learning. Pero si C2, C8, C11, C14, no, they are more on the negative or the challenges of online learning. Okay, ganun. Maganda mag-thematic analysis. Meron siyang mga software like NVivo. Okay. Pero hindi pa ako masyadong expert sa NVivo. So, I do manual code. So, I really analyze the text isa-isa, no? I use different highlights or highlighters. I make a table, a matrix. I group them together until I arrive at a certain. So, after finalizing the name of the team, present the analysis in a storytelling way. So, dapat para siyang may beginning and the end. Okay? So, ito yung example niya, na parang in a certain um, paper, like the corporate social responsibility programs. So, yung mga sabi nun, we have tie-up with NGO, Adapt Community Gawad Kilinga. So, this is more of, ang sub-theme niya, it's more on cooperative and NGO partnership. So, itong mga sub-theme na to, pwede siyang i-group together. No? So, depende kung anong framework ang inaano mo. And then this sub-theme, say for example, itong sub-theme 1, 3, 4, kung pwede siyang i-group together to create a single theme, mas okay siya. Okay? So, we also have research ethics here. So, you are dealing with humans more likely for quali. So, you have to make sure you have the consent in conducting the researcher. Diba? Sa mga university ninyo, if you're from outside from the CSPC, I know that you also have your research ethics committee. No? Do not divulge the real names of the participants nor their affiliation. It's a big no-no. Use code names or pseudonyms for anonymity. So, say for example, the real name, halimbawa lang, is Juana de la Cruz. So, you will not put Juana de la Cruz. You will say Karen, 19, from Manila. O kaya naman, ako ginagawa ko P1, P2, P3, P4 no, for participants. So, to wrap up, no, qualitative is, they are stories, no? Sabi nga nila, stories give life to data, and data gives authority to stories. So whenever we do papers, may it be quality and quantity, no? Treat that as a story that has a valuable implication or impact to the endeavor that we are taking in. Regardless of the objectives of your paper, then whatever it is, then just narrate it in a way that the readers will be able to understand and appreciate it. So they may not like the results of the study. However, these are facts. These are first-hand experiences. These are from the lived experiences of the participants. And that will make you um, be credible in the field of research, no? If you will be able to deliver a very good story in the field of research. So yeah, I'm very on time. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you so much for attending. Ang dami nating participants. 178 kanina ay 99 lang. Ayun. No, so that ends my presentation. If you have any questions, I think Ma'am Riza will be facilitating the Q&A. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So again, thank you very much po, Dean Arl, for sharing your expertise this afternoon on qualitative research design and method. So we now invite the participants to submit any questions or comments they may have in the chat box. So if you prefer po, you can also request po to speak by unmuting your microphone po. Questions from our participants po. Anyone from our participants, we still have time po to entertain your questions.
Sige lang, if you have something in mind or you may want to consult, if you are a researcher, student researcher, now you would like to pursue quali, ayan, sige lang, you may want to ask for that. I can help you on how we can frame it into a qualitative study. And thank you very much, no, maraming mga nagko-comment na thank you. Yeah, thank you also for listening. Thank you also for being here. Okay. So you may want to ask questions. No? If you want po sa mga participants, you may look. Sige po, I will share scholar.google.com. Yeah. You go to Google Scholar, then you type my name, Marlon Quintillas. para makita niyo po yung mga sample ng mga studies ko po doon. Okay. So, I have published papers in discourse analysis, phenomenology, narrative inquiry, and mixed method study. Yeah. My recent paper was actually indexed in Scopus. It's a mixed method. No? So perhaps, Ma'am Riza, no, next time we can also integrate topic for mixed method approach. No? Kasi ito yung parang ano na ngayon eh. Ito na yung parang trend ngayon no ng mga papers, no, yung mga ano ba to, mga sequential exploratory and sequential explanatory method. Kasi sa mga masters and doctorate thesis, ito nire-require ng mga grad school, especially in Manila. Sige po, may mga tanong dito. Ayan.
Okay, so from Ma'am Elena po, from research din ito sir, si Ma'am Elena. Hi sir, pinapatanong lang po how to or how can we validate qualitative research?
Okay. So, say for example, if you will be doing an interview guide or focus group discussions, no, there is no specific naman. Like say for example sa Quanti, di ba? We do tawag nito, ano ba yung lagi ginagawa niyo Sir Mark na ano, parang Cronbach Alpha or Cronbach Kappa or what this one. So usually, ang ginagawa ko for validating my questionnaire, number one, ako talaga, I really make sure that the interview guide questions or FGD questions should be literature-based. Yun ang importance ng literature review. Literature review is not just placed just for the sake of paraphernalia or design in the manuscript. Babalikan nyo yan, especially when you frame your framework, when you decide of what theoretical framework you will be doing, and even the questionnaire or the interview guide questions. So, ilatag mo doon yung mga questions, no? And then pwede siyang through agreement form. So, you invite validators who have the same expertise. Halimbawa, I will be doing a phenomenological study. So, I have to make sure that my validators should be from the tawag nito, from the same field of mine. And usually, ang ginagawa doon, they have yung ano lang, simple lang na questions. And then, they will just rate whether is it suitable in your study or not. So they will just answer yes or no. No. And if no, they can provide a certain comment. Like, say for example, delete this first question because this is not relevant in your objective of the study. Okay. So halimbawa, si validator 2, tumugma siya dun kay validator 1, no? Na parang ganun. Pwede mong i-delete mo yung question na yun. Kasi parehas na silang nagsabi na hindi pala siya pwede. Pero kung halimbawa, yung isa oo, yung isa hindi, agreement, no? This is we call it in the research the agreement agreement form. So you decide whether you will retain the question or you will not retain the question. Or perhaps yung ibang mga validators, they would just like to rephrase your question para mas madaling maintindihan ng mga participants. So what you have to do is to rephrase the question. And then after the comments, no, you have to consolidate their comments. And then ibalik mo sa kanila yung questions. No? Whether it is now ready, no, may check part yan sa last part, no, ready for interview or whatever recommendation. For me, that's Ma'am Elena, that's one of the ways to validate questionnaire or interview guide questions.
Okay,
Ayan.
next question, sir. In choosing topic, how to narrow down the possible choices?
Saan ba yun? Sir, interesting topic, how to possible narrow down the possible choices. Number one, ask yourself as to what alignment do you want your research to have. If it's a master's thesis, no, ano ba ang research agenda ng university or ng school mo? Number two, yung gagawin mo bang research, is it in line with your specialization? No? So those things are a way of narrowing it down. Number three, you go back to your timetable. Itong mga research areas ko ba to? Is it feasible? Matatapos ko ba siya ng 1 semester or 1 year? Or will I find difficulty in data gathering for this one? Number 4, to your interest. No? We have to make sure that when you pursue a certain topic, then make sure na gusto mong ginagawa mo kahit mahirap siya. Kasi may mga study talagang very challenging. Again, ethnography, a very good example. It will take you some years, no, if you will really be immersing in a particular culture or particular tribe. No? So talagang mahirap siya, hindi siya pwedeng i-interview lang. So you make your exclusion and inclusion criteria or questions. Through that, you will answer, no, what is now my specific topic or choices. And ito ang title ng isang research para sa akin, kahit sa last part na siya, no? Pwede mo siyang gawin ng last part. Usually kasi ginagawa ng ibang researcher, super title ka agad, no? The first thing that you have to do, you do a lit review. That's my advice to my students, no, and other researchers. Gawa mo na kayo ng lit review. Halimbawa, yung topic ko is about online interaction sa mga estudyante, sa mga online setup, virtual setup, ano yung parang conversational styles ng mga estudyante. I will do a lit review first, no? And then I have to establish what's the gap. Anong gap ng paper na yon? Ano ba yung kulang doon? Kasi baka nakita ko doon na marami ng quantitative doon. So kulang ng quali, especially in ethnography. So with that lack, theoretical or methodological gap, I can have my topic at the end. So yun ay paperso kong topic. Okay. So yung titles na yan, kahit the last part, usually ang mga ibang researcher, last part na yan, clear lang dapat sa inyo ano ang direction ng study mo.
Right. Third question, sir. Hi, sir. What are the key ethical considerations when conducting qualitative research, particularly in sensitive or vulnerable populations?
Ayan, Sir Mio, dito ba si Sir Mio? Ayan. Number 1, siguro ang masasabi ko lang dyan, sino pa to? Sir Joseph, no? Kailangan kasi meron kayong research ethics committee or direct, no? Sa mga institution, parang kailangan na kailangan talaga siya. Because they are the ones who will set, no? Itong ethical consideration na to, no, sila ang magse-set niyan, no? Kasi kapag halimbawa, yung participant mo naman, hindi naman siya vulnerable. Halimbawa, 18 years old and above, no? So they have yung the notice to proceed the study, mabilis lang siya. Pero if you will be doing some research about very vulnerable, no? I think may mga conditions na ibibigay din ang rec sa inyo or the Research Ethics Committee. Although sa school kasi namin, sa CSPC, parang starting pa lang, I think ipapilot pa lang din po yung sa Research Ethics Committee. So we didn't know yet. We have no experience yet kapag yung participants ay vulnerable. Pero based sa mga na-attendan kong seminars sa research ethics, no. So there are conditions that you have to undergo, no. If you are, say for example, dealing with vulnerable people. Halimbawa, if you will be doing it in an ethnic society, yung mga tribe na gano'n, ang alam ko hindi lang kayo kailangan mag-secure ng ethical or ethics clearance sa university ninyo, even sa national indigenous culture something, the agency that is held liable for this for mga NCIP, yon, National Commission ba yon of Indigenous Peoples. So they also have their own conditions of how you will handle this one. So ang sabi nung isa kong kakilala na parang when you do data gathering, kailangan si NCIP, something ganon, ay parang may staff sila na papasamahin ka during your fieldwork na parang gano'n. Kasi sensitive yung mga ganitong mga tao. So, dapat you have to be very careful with your language, no? So, parang another one, they will set you for a certain training or a short training for that one. Training wherein you will understand the cultural aspects of this community. Kasi yun ang pag-aaralan mo. So again, to wrap up everything, no. So when it comes to research ethics, no, they will be setting certain conditions that you have to abide, especially if you are doing it for vulnerable groups. So the rec will decide what will be the conditions.
Okay, thank you, Sir Arl. And next question po. I am writing a study about the experiences of LGBTQ student leaders, which will be the basis for a program I am going to do in my MAED guidance counseling program. The program will also go through evaluation of RGCs prior to implementation. Question po, sa anong research design po siya papasok kaya or anything you can comment po with regards to the topic if it's obsolete or current pa naman? Thank you, sir.
Okay, for this one, mga lived experiences pa to ng mga LGBT student leaders. So for me, the suitable approach, or yeah, the approach for this one, nakikita ko, pwede siyang narrative inquiry. You can start first with narrative inquiry, no? Para malaman nyo lang certain, no? Ano ba yung mga unique experiences nila? Kasi baka they experience discrimination or they experience na parang hindi sila parang socially inclusive, no? Parang they are deprived of social inclusion. So baka tingnan mo muna yung mga narrative experiences din nila, no? Nung mga student leaders na to. Kasi baka mas maunawaan natin kung ano nga ba talaga ang needs talaga nila, no? But if you think there is a phenomenon na establish mo na, say for example, may bullying talaga nangyayari sa mga LGBTQ student leaders. So you can step it up into phenomenology. Okay, pwede mong tingnan, ano ba nagiging causes ng bullying ng mga LGBTQ student leaders despite the fact that they are student leaders, no? Were they bullied because of their sexual orientation? Number two, marami bang mga homophobic sa state university ninyo or state college? Number three, baka kasi ang orientation ng SUK ninyo or maybe yung ideology ng SUK ninyo, it's anti-LGBT, no? So pwede siyang matingnan as angle. So you call out those data, both primary and secondary sources of data, for you to arrive a certain grounding on the phenomenon that you will be looking in your study. So again, pwede siyang narrative inquiry or pwede siyang phenomenology. It depends on your research objective. I hope I answered your question, Sir Ken.
Okay. Next question po, Dean Arl. Sir, in qualitative research, is there a specific number of respondents to make the research valid?
Ayun, sabi ko nga, for case study, single case study, at least one, no, ang mga multiple group case study, usually mga 5 or 10 siya. No, pag Fino, sabi nga ni Creswell, no, 5 to 25. For Fino, ganun din, 5 to 25. For narrative inquiry, pwedeng 5, pwedeng 1. You can set first, no? Kaso ang sa quali kasi magtinatawag tayong data saturation. So please remember that we may have set our inclusion and exclusion criteria. And say for example, on our proposal, we have 5, no, for Fino. However, nung inaano natin during the interview process, hindi mo ma-jive, no? Hindi ka maka-unpack ng mga themes sa 5 na yon. So that's the time you add another participant, no? Mag-interview ka pa ng isa pa. Ngayon pag feeling mo hindi pa, you can add another one. So bawa 7, hindi pa rin. You add another participant na pasok doon sa criterion analysis ay sa criteria mo. So pag feeling mo na nasagot niya na nasaturate niya na yung data, then it's the time to say, enough na. Okay na to. Okay, I can already have these 8 participants in my study are already enough for me to arrive or to answer my research objectives. So again, the key here is the data saturation technique for quad.
Okay, next question, Sir Arl. Good afternoon po, sir. This is Marlon Sagidon, currently pursuing my master's degree from Romblon State University. My question is, how do you ensure the trustworthiness and validity of data in qualitative research? Second question is how do you incorporate indigenous knowledge and practices in qualitative research, especially when working with indigenous communities?
Okay, Sir Marlon, we have the same name. Yan, from Romblon State University. Thank you very much, sir, for attending the webinar today. To answer your first question with regard to the trustworthiness and validity of data in qualitative research. So again, it should be informed by literature. So the research questions that you will be framing or the not really research the research questions and the interview guide questions, say for example, should be informed by a literature. Hindi yung kung ano lang yung pumasok sa or whatever. So dapat grounded siya ng literature. It should be informed by the literature. Kasi nga, di ba na-identify mo yung gap at ito yung gusto mong gawin. So dapat scientific pa rin siya. And number two, siguro, how can you do it? Again, I explained that a while ago, no? Na parang you can invite other validators to not really validate, no? May term din sa quali kasi na hindi naman, ang validity kasi and trustworthiness usually parang more on quantity siya. There's a specific term for that. I just forgot. So you invite other experts, no? Should we say experts? And then let them sit down to see no if the questions that you have made are okay no are can be parang pwede na siyang i-go on sa research. Okay, so those two things no pwede mo siyang gawin. And third one, siguro Sir Marlon sa mga nababasa kong quali, they do pilot testing. That's one way, no? So when you pilot test your study or your paper or your questionnaire, malalaman mo whether applicable ba siyang um i um i-undergo na ba for a study for data gathering or hindi pa. Kasi sa pilot testing makikita mo ano ang strengths and weaknesses ng questionnaire mo. Doon pa lang, kasi nagpa-pilot test ka halimbawa, phenomenology, tapos halimbawa si Ma'am Riza, yung pinilot test mo kasi isa siya sa mga nag-qualify doon sa participant. Doon pa lang, sa questions number 1, 2, 3, okay si Ma'am Riza. Pero sa number 4 and number 5, hindi niya na masagot kasi parang for her, parang ambiguous masyado yung tanong mo. So that can be a ground for revising those items. So there are three ways that you can do. Number one, it should be informed by literature. Number two, you invite other experts to look whether the questions are already okay or not. And number three, you conduct pilot testing. And there's another question, Ma'am Liza, no? Like how do you incorporate indigenous knowledge and practices in qualitative research? Yeah. You incorporate that, you study that. Number one, if it's aligned to your field. Okay? Number two, it should be of your interest. Hindi lang for the clout lang, na gusto mo lang na, ay gusto ko pag-aralan yung mga tribo, tabang nun, or whatever. What's your main purpose? Like, who are you in the field? Dapat kasi as a researcher, we should know the niche of a researcher. Kaya ko ba? 'Di ba? Kaya ko bang mag-ethnographic research for this one? Kaya ko bang mamuhay doon for weeks or for months? So you have to assess first yourself. If you're into it, then go. But if you do not want, if you think you cannot, then leave it to other researchers who can do it. Because not everyone is into it and can do it. Know your potentials, know your opportunities, and know your limitations when it comes to conducting research. Hindi pwedeng oo ka lang ng oo. Kahit alam mo kaya mo, pero kailangan kasi immersed ka. Dapat 100% kang ready sa research undertaking. Yeah. So I hope I answered your question, Sir Marlon, and good luck to your research. I think you will be dwelling into this kind of topic. So yeah, go for it. We need researches that tackle about indigenous people, for maybe language, culture, art, and others. So good luck, sir.
Okay. Another question po, Sir Arl, coming from Ma'am Elena again. Hi, sir. For transcription po, will it be okay if kami, researcher ang mag-transcribe or do we need po to hire transcriber to avoid bias? For example po, Bicol to Tagalog interview.
Ang answer ko diyan, Ma'am Riza, ay si si Ma'am Elena, 'no? Siguro you have to know your capacity as a researcher. If your first and second language is not really Bicol or Tagalog, then hire a transcriber, no? Someone who is, sorry, expert or who is, who knows the language very well, no? Wag tayo magpanggap, no? So, to be honest, ako I'm a Bicolano, but then I'm not really so proficient when it comes to Bicol Naga or Bicol Rinconada. So when I do research about language documentation, I really hire, I really seek the help of a linguist who is really native for that one. So okay lang naman, Ma'am Elena, kung mag-hire ka ng transcriber, no, depende sa language proficiency mo and sa gamit mo ng language. So if you're comfortable, if okay naman sa'yo na proficient ka naman sa Bicol or sa Tagalog, no, then you can do it alone. But if you want to hire a transcriber just to make sure the authenticity or to avoid the biases para yung maka-capture mo talaga yung right statements, then it's okay. And also, no, there are also softwares right now for Quali na mga nagpa-transcribe talaga, no. So I think that is a paid software that you have to purchase. Even Tagalog and Bicol kaya niyang ma-capture. I think that this was shared to me by Ma'am Catherine Guarnes na kaya niya na-capture talaga niya lahat, no? Even yung mga very minor errors lang. So ako kung kaya niyo naman, kung afford niyo naman, you download a software and then you cross-check na lang after na-transcribe na siya. Yun. So good luck, Ma'am Elena, if you're doing this kind of research, go for it. Whichever is comfortable to you, go for it.
Another question po, Sir Arl, from Sir Vincent. Hi, Sir Marlon. Good afternoon po. I am currently pursuing my master's degree at UNEP. My question is, what are the best tools to use quantitative research or experimental?
Okay. Sa UNEP kasi ang alam ko, they are heavily quanti. Yan ang alam kong I have browsed the papers of UNEP na parang they are heavily quanti, parang quantitative ang ano nila. So, para sa akin kay Sir Vincent, depende kasi siya sa kung anong paper mo, no? So, if yung paper mo it's more just an evaluation or to assess their perceptions, then you can do a descriptive research lang, no? You get the weighted mean, you get the standard deviation, the total mean, then variable interpretation. That's fine. Pero if you will be connecting variables to relationship, then that's you can do a descriptive correlational. No? So again, it all depends on the research questions. Pero kung experimental naman, halimbawa, if you want to know whether this method, I don't know if you're MBA ka po ba, sir, or parang MAED. If you're a MAED, usually ano yan parang more on two groups for a certain pedagogy. Halimbawa, ito gumamit ng ganito. So they are more on the experimental group and this one is for traditional method or the control group. So if you will be comparing, say for example, their grades, their level of achievement, their proficiency levels using two groups, then it can be experimental. So again, we design our research approaches depending on the research objectives. Huwag natin ipipilit ang isang approach na hindi naman nagtutugma dun sa research objectives natin. We have to look really on the objectives of our study before deciding what statistical method or what will be the methodology or approach will I be using in my paper. So good luck, Sir Vincent, for your master's.
All right. So with that, thank you very much po, Sir Arl, for the inputs. And of course, thank you to our participants for sharing their question.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes po.
Can I ask a question to Dean Marlon?
Sure po, ma'am. Sure po.
Hello po.
Hello, Dean Marlon.
Hello po.
I'm Miss Atos. I'm currently here in Kuwait.
Wow, okay po.
I'm nasa research process ako ng thesis ko about live experiences.
Okay.
Okay. I want an advice from you on ano ba dapat yung tamang approach? Do I need to just ask the respondent about their lived experiences or just to narrate how they feel, or should I have a questions like prepared questions for them
Mm.
to answer, or should I first ano ba yung tamang approach, yung may advice mo po sa akin yung pakwentuhin ko muna sila, then and ask follow-up questions. Kasi po, it is very broad. I'm working about since I have an autistic child.
Mhm.
So I am having research about it, about live experiences. So I want to ask for your advisor kung ano po ba yung may advice mo. Should I let them just narrate how they feel, how how are they feeling, or should I have a prepared question, sir?
Okay,
Yun po
thank
yung
you.
medyo yes, yes sir.
Parang
Thank you, sir.
blurry. Opo, thank you, Ma'am Lourdes. First of all, Ma'am Lourdes, thank you very much for attending the webinar despite your distance, no? So siguro, on your paper with regard to the lived experiences, no? Siguro ang advice ko dun, ma'am, no? Mag-focus ka po dun sa mga caregivers, no? Lived experiences of caregivers who are taking care, something like that, of autistic children, like in the Philippines or abroad. Kasi if our participants are those autistic children, not to para minamaliit sila or whatever, but I think mas maganda kasing kwento sa paper mo po, like how do these caregivers, when I say caregivers, they are the mothers, the relatives who are taking good care of these autistic children. So what if yung participants mo ay sila, no po, yung mga the caregivers of autistic children. And
Actually, sir, that's my respondents, the
sila ang
caregiver.
participant, the
Yeah,
caregivers.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
ang gawin mo po, ma'am, mayroon ka dapat inclusion or exclusion criteria. Like, who are these caregivers? Are they the immediate family member? Or are they the nannies? No? So, dapat nakaset siya sa inyo. No, are they the mother or the father? Or baka pwedeng yung kapatid, no? Or tita or
Mhm,
tito. No? So,
mhm.
ilagay po natin siya as one of our criteria. Number two, how many years na ba silang nag-aalaga ng children with autism? So, maybe ilagay mo dun at least 5 years or 10 years, no, na ganito. And then number three, they are living, no, in the same household siguro with the autistic children. So, you set the criteria. So, whenever you have the criteria, it will just be easy for you to look for the participants. And then for your question, whether do you have to go there to ambush an interview, mas maganda po if you have a guide question already, no?
Oh, thank you.
So, yun, mas maganda po yung,
Thank you.
para
Salamat.
malinaw, opo,
Yes, sir.
malinaw,
Yeah,
malinaw kung ano. Pwede mong itanungin, how long have you been? Kaya parang ganyan,
yeah.
kumusta?
Mhm,
Yan,
mhm,
kumusta po kayo? Ganyan, kumusta yung bata? Kamusta yung
mhm.
bata? Okay naman ba? Blah, blah, blah. How long have you been taking good care of autistic children? And then, pakwentuhin mo na papaano ka naging caregiver for that children. Kung halimbawa, hindi nanay o tatay, halimbawa, katulong. Yan. Busy ba yung mga ano yung ano yung anak ay yung parents noon? Bakit ikaw ang pinaalaga ng bata? No? Tapos pakwentuhin mo, kumusta yung bata? Okay, kumusta ano yung mga challenges ng bata? No, when it comes to learning, when it comes to socializing, when it comes to other aspects of his or her life. So, pag nagkwento mo na siya, pwede mong tanungin, ano yung strength nung ano ba yung talents ba nitong mga children with autism? No? Or ano yung parang nagiging difficulties nila and so on and so forth. So, you make a unstructured questionnaire kasi, or guide question kasi, pwede kasi dun sa mga questions na yun, ma'am, may mga ma-insert ka na mga sub-question na very interesting na pwede mong ilagay dun sa paper. Okay?
Yes,
So
sir.
when you make a question, dapat meron siyang beginning and end. Okay. So parang sa end, parang reflection nila na parang ano yung ma-advise mo sa mga parents na magkakaroon ng autistic children? What advice can you give? Ano yung tutunan mo sa journey mo bilang isang caretaker ng isang autistic children to impart to the audience if ever they will be having a similar experience of yours? So with that one, ma'am, maganda ang magiging kahanit na ng study mo kasi you have the whole story package that you can deliver to the audience.
Sir, follow-up question, sorry.
Sige po.
For example, I had themes, okay? As what you advise, I
Mhm.
need to get the responses from different like nannies, mother, single mom, how they took care of the autistic kids. So with regards with the themes and narrating as a story, should I sabi ko, i-consolidate mo na siya lahat or do I need to ano yan, isa-isahin ko siya according to like this, from the nanny as transcribed like this, sir. Or should isa-isa or pwede po sa tatlong respondents may isa silang same themes
Opo,
but
ganun
I
po
will
siya. Yes. Opo.
okay.
So halimbawa si Nani, sinabi niya, makulit masyado yung bata. Sabi naman nung nanay, ay naku, sobrang kulit niyan, ma'am. No? So, tapos yung isa naman, sabi nung tatay na ibang ano, di ko talaga alam kung papaano i-handle yung kakulitan ng ano. So you lump that one. So, ibig sabihin, they have similar responses. And you can lump that into a certain sub-theme until theme, no? Like say for example, behaviors, untoward behaviors of autistic children as a major challenge for caregivers. Yun.
Thank you
Tapos
so
ilagay
much,
mo
sir.
doon na, makulit si ganito, P1. Ay, sobrang kulit
Mm.
ng alaga ko, P2. Nun. So parang magkakaroon ka ng parang, ng story na nagsasabi doon na, sabi ng mga caregivers, mga kulit talaga ang mga autistic children. Ilump mo na lang into one. Okay lang po yun.
Thank you so much, Sir Marlon. It
Thank you and good
clears
luck to your
my
study.
question.
Thank you so
Thank you so
much.
much.
All right. So with that, thank you again po, Dean Orl, and of course, Ma'am Lourdes from Kuwait pa pala si Ma'am. Okay. Are there any further questions po from the participants? So, hearing none, I think that concludes po the Q&A session for the fourth webinar series on research, qualitative research design and methods. So thank you to all the participants today, and we hope po this session has broadened your understanding and of course enriched your knowledge.